Hello, I'm Jessica Kozar of Boardman High School TV, along with my co-host, attorney Mark Huberman, and we are pleased to bring you another edition of Boardman Biography, a BSTN program devoted to profiling educators and community members who have made significant contributions to the Boardman schools and the Boardman community.
Our guest for this edition of Boardman Biography is one of the great Boardmanites that I've had the privilege of growing up and knowing. She's given as much to the Boardman schools and Boardman Township as anyone I know. In fact, I think it's fair to say that there's almost no important community effort to benefit our schools and our township in which our guest has not been an active participant. And of all those contributions, perhaps none is more significant than her co-founding and still leading the Boardman Schools television network, which is bringing you this program today. I couldn't imagine a more appropriate guest for Boardman Biography than the mother of BSTN, retired Boardman art teacher, current Boardman Park trustee, and my fellow 1969 BHS graduate, Mrs. Joyce Mistovich. Joyce, welcome to school. Welcome back to Boardman High School and Boardman Biography, and here we are.
Thank you so much, Attorney Huberman. Thank you, Jessica. It's great to be here.
I'm sorry. Before getting into your career as an educator and a community leader, let's talk a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Attorney Huberman tells me that you attended the Boardman School since day one. In what part of Boardman did you live?
I actually grew up on the corner. My parents built their own home on the corner of Mill Creek Boulevard and Stewart. Mill Creek Boulevard runs off of 224. So that's where I lived all my childhood days.
And what did your parents do?
My dad actually was self-employed. He owned a very small little bar and a very small motel for about 25 years on the east side of Youngstown. And my mom was a homemaker until my youngest sister started 5th grade, and then she came to work for the Boardman Schools. She was a cashier in the cafeteria at Boardman Center Middle School, and then became the head baker at the school. So.
And when did they pass away?
My dad actually passed away in February of 2007, and my mom in February of 2008.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about your siblings?
I have 3 sisters. My sisters and I have a very strong family-oriented relationship, and one of my sisters works for the Boardman Schools. She's a noontime aide at Market Street Elementary, and another sister is a supervisor at Jobs and Family Services, and another sister is one of the marketing directors for Simon Property Group.
Since you attended Boardman Schools, which Boardman schools did you attend?
I went actually to Stadium Drive Elementary, Glenwood Middle School, and of course Boardman High School.
Did you have any favorite teachers?
I would say several that come to mind are Mr. Lugabell was one of my teachers in the middle school. I actually had great fondness and admiration for Mr. Dykins at the high school, and Miss Zagorski was an English teacher that I had as well, and also Mr. Grove, an English teacher at the high school.
Who were your art teachers?
Actually, the ultimate of art teachers back in the days that I was in high school was Mrs. Florence Hoza, and I still keep in touch with her. She lives out in New Mexico. Oh, wow. She's fabulous. Mr. Rubino, fabulous, and an art teacher named Mrs. Johnson, who's retired quite a while ago.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you participate in any other activities in Boardman?
I was heavily involved in the art club at Boardman High School. I was also in the Booster Club, and I was also part of a school spirit committee. So, and teachers, the Teachers Association that we created within the school, Future Teachers of America. I was part of that because from the time I was in 3rd grade, I wanted to be a teacher.
So this is foreshadowing.
I know.
You had school spirit back then. You never lost it.
I know. I did not.
Well, speaking of art, I was just looking through the Huberman archives, and I found somebody who was involved in the art club, and I don't know if we still have that picture out here, the couple of pictures that I had sent into BSTN.
Oh my goodness.
If we could see them. Who's
my
that?
gosh.
There you go.
You know, it's so funny because I look at that picture. my husband is crazy about it. He thinks that that picture is just beautiful. And I said, he wanted to frame it at one point. I'm like, absolutely not. I absolutely do not like it at all.
Talk about foreshadowing. We have another one that it might be here from when you were in the art club. That might just
how about
be there.
that?
We have that one as well? We may not.
That is
But
so
it pops
funny.
Up later. Pops up later. Maybe
You know,
we'll
we
still
used to have
that.
this.
Oh, there you go. Who is that?
Oh,
Right
my
there in the
gosh, how
center.
about that? How about that?
Just as happy and content and pleased to be here as ever were.
That is so funny. Oh
There
my
you
gosh.
go.
The art club used to host, it was so much fun. And I think it would be great if they could bring that back. It was called a Bohemian Ball.
I do
It was
remember the
sponsored by the
Bohemian
art
Ball,
club,
yeah.
and it was so much fun.
So you knew art was always what you wanted to do?
Yes, I was always
Where did this
passionate.
talent come from?
Actually, my mom wasn't an artist per se, a visual artist, but she had a great talent for preparation of foods and putting together, as they call today, the presentation. It's all about the presentation of foods. And my mom was part of that early on. One of my aunts was a fabulous drawer. Artist, drawing and painting. So I think a little bit of that comes from that background.
Everybody in art have their own little niche, or some people do watercolors, some do portraits. Well, it's Joyce Mistovich.
I really like charcoals, pencil studies, charcoal, just the creation of variations in tones that you get with one media. I enjoyed that a lot.
And then back in the day, in 1969, did they have art shows like they do today?
Oh, very, very fabulous art shows, as they do today. That tradition has not changed. In fact, when I was a freshman in high school, one of the English teachers that I had wanted to purchase a piece that I had in the art show. And the funny thing was, I thought back on that once when I was talking to Mrs. Davidson and said, my gosh, $5, I sold that piece of work. I really liked it so much.
You still draw? You still paint?
A little, but not very much. I often think about what my art would be if I decided to start just producing art. And I'm going to get to that at some point.
So did you go straight to college after Boardman High School? Or did
immediately
you go to work?
went to college.
Where'd you go?
I went to Youngstown State University.
So you're a Penguin?
Yes, I am. I actually have, I majored in elementary education. I minored in art. And then after I graduated, I went back and I needed 3 more classes to be certified to teach art. So I did that, so I'm actually certified in both elementary ed and
So
art.
you knew you wanted to be a teacher?
I did. Kids in the neighborhood, we would all get together, and of course they'd say, well, you're the teacher. I said, I would love to be.
So you got your undergraduate at YSU
and my master's at YSU.
Oh,
Yes.
so you're a Penguin through and through?
Yes, I am.
Just like you're a Spartan through and
Yes,
through?
absolutely.
Okay.
Where did you meet your husband, Ron?
Actually, at Youngstown State University. My husband had a job he's an artist as well. Actually, just last year, had a one-man show at the Butler Institute of American Art. And he worked for the art department and had a little studio space of his own, kind of like Jackson Pollock did, but at the Guggenheim Museum. But my husband worked at Youngstown State University in the art department, and I would just walk by his little studio space, and he was working down there, and one day he asked me out, and the rest is history. So.
Wow, both artists. That must have
Yes.
clicked right away. Would you say it was love at first sight?
You know, I think that's something that's kind of a cliche. I think we had a lot of interests that we shared, especially in the arts, and passed that on to our children. My husband's a fabulous man, and I'm honored to be married to him. But I think the arts that we share with our children, both in all realms of art, from drama to music to the visual arts, is something that is going to stay with them forever.
And can you tell us a little bit about your children and what activities they were involved in?
Sure.
They're all
I'm
Boardman
proud to
graduates?
say, very proud to say, that our 3 children graduated from Boardman Schools with the best of educations, and I'm so proud of that. Our oldest son graduated in 1999. He's currently a pediatric orthopedic surgeon. He's doing a fellowship for a year in Philadelphia and will be returning to Pittsburgh. His wife is a pediatrician, and they have our first grandchild, Madeline, who is 17 months old. Our second child, his son, graduated in 2002 from Boardman. He, as the saying might go, went into the family business. He is an art educator in Pittsburgh and teaches in an elementary school and a middle school, kind of what my husband did. My husband taught in Struthers, grades K through 8. This is what our son is currently doing. And he is married to a girl that he met at Case Western Reserve University, who is currently in dental school at Case. And we have our daughter, Joy, who was born, I should have said our oldest son is Justin, our middle son is Ryan, and then our daughter, Joy, graduated in 2008. And she attended Youngstown State University, graduated last year, is currently working on her master's and applying for PhD programs to be an English professor.
So was Boardman your first teaching position?
I actually was offered a job in South Range and Boardman, and I chose Boardman because
Good choice.
Boardman was the cream
Good
of the
choice.
crop, and as far as I'm concerned, continues to be.
Is that where you wanted to teach?
That was my dream. It was, back then, if you could get into Boardman Schools, it was the ultimate of teaching positions. And
Still is not too bad.
it's fabulous in my eyes.
And who hired you? Who was the principal? Who was
Actually,
the superintendent?
Mr. Kirk was the assistant superintendent.
Who was our high school principal?
Yes, Mr. Kibble was superintendent.
And in what schools did you teach?
I started in Boardman Center Middle School, and for a very short period of time, I was actually pregnant with Ryan, my second son. I was transferred over because I was sort of low man on the totem pole at Center Middle, and I was transferred to Robin Wood Lane Elementary. I actually was only there for a couple 9 weeks, and then took a leave of absence with our son. And when I came back to teaching, I went back to Boardman Center Middle.
Tell us about your colleagues when you were teaching art at Boardman.
I taught with, as I said, Mrs. Hoza, Mr. Rubino, Mrs. Davidson. Mrs. Davidson and I actually grew up together, rode the bus together. Carol Gallo. We just continue to be, and were then, very passionate about the arts. Continue to believe in giving our children of Boardman the best art education they could possibly have, and move forward to try and make that happen.
Did you always
continue.
consider art a department in Boardman, like music, like?
Absolutely. In my
So
opinion,
from the elementary to the high school?
yes. In my opinion, the arts are what makes a well-rounded child and are extremely important in moving forward to educate any child.
And you were, as I remember, as a teacher. I don't remember so much as a student because I was in theater and you were in art and
Yes,
you didn't know
yes,
what you people did.
yes.
But you were very active as a teacher in the art shows.
Yes.
In developing the art shows and coordinating and getting students involved. How did that happen?
Well, I'm such a strong advocate for the arts, and I'm a take charge kind of person. So I was involved with coordinating the county art show for all Mahoning County schools. We used to have that at Southern Park Mall. When the county decided to do their own realm of an art show, I spearheaded the campaign to have the an art show at the Boardman Library. So I was part of bringing that into the schools. I actually co-chair still, even though I retired, Scholastic, the Northeast Regional Scholastic Art Awards competition, which is coming up here in January with Edie Davidson. So,
I know this is a tough question, but did you tick off the best art students you ever had? Or who you think was the most gifted student you had, or students?
I have had so many extremely talented students through the years. As far as naming who would be some of the most talented, that would be a bit of a challenge. There are so many. Some have gone on in all parts of the U.S., and they're doing amazing things. Some are teaching here locally, teaching art. It's always touching in my heart to see students who I have had, and I feel like I've had a small part of their life, and they've gone on to do greater things. It's difficult to really pinpoint.
Do you still sub?
Occasionally. Mr. Lazzari ran into me once last year and said, "Oh, do you not like to sub, or you don't sub? It doesn't seem that you're around. I said, I'm just extremely busy. So I did actually last year sub for the second semester, a few days a week for Mrs. Galos, the Glenwood Middle School art teacher. And
another treasure.
yes, Mrs. Galos is truly an amazing person. We've taught together for years and just share the relationship of the importance of art to students in 7th and 8th grade.
About that, what is to Joyce Mistovich, the value of arts in education, like Boardman?
It is, to me, the substance that gives everything in life meaning. Without the arts, we create individuals that can tend to be like robots and just regurgitate facts and information, but not really have a great understanding of the origin of time. Back from the beginning of days, the arts are what brought our culture to be where it is, and every culture moving forward into the future, every culture is surrounded by the arts. And the arts are really, I would say, about 100 years ahead of the times. So,
do you think that's what distinguishes Boardman from other schools?
Absolutely, absolutely. We just had the great performance of Phantom of the Opera, truly amazing. Our art shows, the visual art shows. Students last year we had, and we continue to have students that are recognized with Gold Keys and Scholastic Art Awards. It is just, you know, we're a Grammy signature school. We have the orchestra, we have our band, we have our chorus. We are really blessed in Boardman, and we need to preserve those great treasures, which are the arts.
Remember that line from Mr. Holland's opus? That
Oh.
they cut everything down to reading, writing. They won't have anything to read and write about.
Exactly, exactly, without the arts.
Okay.
And that old, the little saying that says, the earth without the arts is
Very nice.
if you've heard that.
That's even better.
Attorney Huberman tells me that you were a co-founder of BSTN. Can you tell us how that came about?
Actually, I had the privilege of working with a very intelligent elderly gentleman in Boardman. He volunteered his time. His name was Alan Butcher. He passed away actually in 2008, and he and I actually worked together in just the Boardman Center Middle School studio, and he actually came in, brought some of his equipment from his house, and audio recorders and VCRs back in those days, and set up a whole studio. The Boardman Center Middle School PTA ended up helping him out and purchasing some equipment, and he started from the ground up a studio. We got some students involved. Jess McLean helped as well, and students were interested, and we started running through the in-house television network. We had televisions that were donated by this Whittle Television Network out of California, so we used those televisions to run their Channel 19 program, which offered some advertisement, totally free to the schools. And we used that in-house and did our morning announcements. Instead of them being over the PA system, we had the morning announcements coming over our televisions. So Mr. Butcher spearheaded that from the ground up. Again, I was privileged to work with him. He was actually a retired CPA, extremely amazing in his knowledge of technology, and wanted to continue to grow the program. So we talked a lot and decided that we would move forward to create Boardman Schools Television Network. And actually it was about the time of this auditorium campaign back in 2000. I was on that committee as well as Attorney Huberman. And we decided to have a major production and showcase all that we do in Boardman television. And we are today where we are because of his efforts and all that he gave to the Boardman Schools tirelessly, really.
What were the early days like?
It was a lot of fun. We have and continue to have a very strong partnership with Armstrong Cable Network, and Mr. Butcher and one of the gentlemen, Joe Batista from Armstrong, used to go into the auditorium at Center Middle School and literally run cables under miles and miles of cables underground. And then Robinwood Lane developed a studio, and again, they set that up and ran cables there. It was a lot of experimentation, a lot of trial and error, and one of Mr. Butcher's favorite sayings was, well, I'd come in the morning and he'd say, Joyce, I just jury-rigged this and we're going to figure out if it works or not. So it was a lot of fun, and I just truly enjoyed working with him and learned so much from him.
Amazing how far we've come.
It is amazing. And to see what we have today, many studios within our community and other communities and colleges do not have what we have here in Boardman, and we're very blessed to have this studio.
As I mentioned at the outset, you're one of the most civic-minded Boardmanites that I know. I always thought that I was kind of a public citizen, but you
I don't know
put
about
me
that,
to shame. How long have you been a trustee of Boardman Park?
I am actually going on my 5th year as a trustee. I'm very passionate about my role in as being a commissioner in Boardman Park. My dad used to take my sisters and I, they had a low area, kind of recessed area in the park that they would freeze in the winter when I was a child, and my dad would take us skating every Sunday.
Now it's in your backyard.
Exactly.
So you keep an eye on it all the time.
Absolutely. I love it.
And you're on a Boardman School Foundation as well?
Yes, I'm on, it's called Boardman Schools Fund for Educational Excellence, where I've been on this from the ground up. We started with $0, and we worked to fundraise and garner funds from community members that are interested and care about our schools. And we currently give away, in fact, have, the news will be coming out actually this week, grants, mini grants to Boardman teachers that go above and beyond what the school budget provides. We give grants that will enhance the educational opportunities for students, and we had this year some fabulous grants that were presented to our board, and we made a selection. Mr. Lazari will be notifying those teachers. I'm proud to be part of that.
And what other organizations are you active in?
I'm actually in the Youngstown Foundation Hind Fund. It's very dear to my heart. Our daughter is visually impaired, and the Hind Fund serves the needs of children who are ages 21 and under and have special needs. And so we look at grants quarterly and provide funds for those children. I'm also on the board of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Mahoning County in Western PA. And I'm a member of the Boardman Lions Club. And I think that's about it.
Well, whether it's championing BSTN, helping lead the campaign for this BPAC, helping involved in our levy efforts, supporting the Boardman Orchestra, being involved in all these civic associations, you're always there for Boardman. Where does that drive come from?
I'm totally a type A person. I think that my drive came from my parents were very hardworking and high achieving, and my mom taught us from a very early age that it is more important to give than to receive. My mom was actively involved in Boardman PTA. She was president of, all the way to president of council, and we would see my mother sacrificing for us as children as she moved forward to help her neighbors and fellow Americans. And I just think that if I can do any little bit of good to help in our community, I want to be part of it. I like to make things happen. I like to make a difference in the lives of those that I work with, and I feel that it's important for every person to have impact in their community and then help those at large.
So apples didn't fall far from the Mistovich. They're an off tree.
I don't think they do.
Well, Mrs. Mistovich, we're about at the end of this edition of Boardman Biography, but I'd like to take this time as an opportunity to thank you for all your years of service to the Boardman schools, the lives of all the students that you touched, and your many contributions to our community.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a joy and a pleasure, and it's a pleasure working with these students and Mr. Hollabaugh and Mrs. Travi here in BSTN.
There is an old saying that if you want something done, you always ask a busy person, and they always somehow find the time, and you are truly one of those people. We go back a long, long way.
Yes.
And it is, I guess I want to thank you for being such a great partner and so many great things for Boardman.
You're so welcome.
I'm thrilled that I finally have the opportunity to put you in front of the camera instead of behind the camera as you've been for so long, and to share your extraordinary story with the viewers of BSTN. So thanks for sharing your story with us today, and I know I'll keep seeing you out around and about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
We hope you have once again enjoyed this edition of Boardman Biography. If you have great Boardmanites in mind you would like to see profiled, please feel free to email us your suggestions and we will try to line them up. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in and thank you for your continued support of the Boardman Schools Television Network. I'm Jessica Kozar for BSTN. Keep striving for excellence.